Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over what I think is the best 45 vector build in patch 12.9 of Escape from Tarkov. Now, before we get into the video, 99% of you that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with all my Escape from Tarkov videos. And like with all of my builds, there will be a link in the description to the Tarkov Gunsmith website where you can go and easily see all the parts you need for this build and get updated prices for all those parts on the flea market. Now, this is one of my favorite weapons in this wipe of EFT, especially with the constant increase to the prices of the 9mm 7N bullets. This vector has quickly taken over as my favorite of the two vectors. Now, there are some negatives and positives with going with each of the vectors, but I think even with the negatives of this vector, it's still an incredibly strong weapon. Now, one of the big buffs of this weapon is that the best rounds for it are really good, have a very high base damage. I think it's 70 or 71 base damage, which is much higher than the 9mm 7N bullets, and they have pretty similar armor penetration, and those bullets being, I think, only 4 USD still, are much cheaper than the 7N bullets right now, making this overall, if you're using the best of the best for this compared to the best of the best for the 9mm vector, this weapon is going to be quite a bit cheaper. And there are some other differences that we're going to get to when we get to those specific weapon parts. So first off, for the sight, you're just going to be using whatever sight you want to use. The only things you have to determine when choosing a sight are what sights you like to use, what range you're going to be using the weapon at, and how much ergo is going to affect the weapon. And with the 45 vector, one of the other big downsides is that it has a very slow muzzle velocity. You're never going to be using a longer range sight with this thing. This is pretty much a close and medium range weapon. And we are going to be having front and rear sights, and like with the 9mm vector, these come with the Chris Defiance front and rear sights, which do give an additional ergo, so that saves you a little bit of money not having to buy those. And then for the stock, we're going to be using the Chris Vector non-folding stock adapter, and on top of that, we're going to be using the SI Advanced Receiver Extension Buffer Tube, the anodized red one. Now, if you can get the normal advanced buffer tube for much cheaper than the red one, you can definitely go ahead and do that. Now, personally, anytime I'm going to be using the 45 vector, I'm always going to use the red one because it does give 5% additional accuracy, but it gives a +2 increase to muzzle velocity. And one of the biggest downsides of this weapon is the very slow muzzle velocity. So getting that slight increase, I think, is worth the higher price tag of the red buffer tube. Then on that, I'm going to be using the Mo carbine stock. You can use any of the different colors you want. Just get the cheapest color. I think the blacks have come down a little bit. They were pretty expensive. Then on that, we're going to be using the Magpul rubber butt pad. For the 9mm vector, this was one of the options, and then the other one was the Fab Defense GRL. But with the 45 vector not having the bigger magazines, it means it has higher ergo baseline, but it also has a higher recoil. So personally, I'd always go with the Mo stock with the rubber butt pad. Then we get to one of the other big downsides of this weapon that makes it a much more punishing weapon to use, and that's that it only has 30 round magazines. The other magazines like 17 rounds, and it's completely not usable. So this is a 30 round magazine on a weapon with 1100 RPM. So if you're not careful, you're going to spray out a magazine and then have to reload, and that's one of the most punishing parts of this weapon. Now, something else that is also a buff with these mags is that these magazines always tell you the exact amount of ammo in them because they have the slots at the back so your character can see the amount of ammo in them. So it always gives an exact amount instead of just saying, you know, less than half, more than half, stuff like that. And these magazines also have a very quick loading. I forget the exact amount of speed increase to loading, but they load very quickly, which is also nice when you're getting done with fights and wanting to reload your mags with extra bullets you bring in. These load very quickly. So next up for our grip, we're using the Fortis Shift Tactical Grip. I think this has low enough recoil to not need the extra recoil reduction of, say, an RK2 and RK1, and this gives a really high ergo increase, so we can have that really nice usable ergo. And then we're going to be using the 5-inch barrel. You do have an option with this because going to the 6-inch barrel pretty much only increases or only decreases the horizontal recoil compared to the 5-inch, but either one is going to be pretty viable with this weapon because you will get a slight recoil reduction with the 6-inch at a slightly lower ergo, and then the 5-inch you'll have a slightly higher horizontal recoil but a higher ergo. And I think either is pretty viable with this weapon because it does have a slightly higher recoil than the 9mm version. And then on top of that, we're going to be using the direct thread mount adapter, and then on that we're going to be using the Omega 45K sound suppressor. And then for the last piece, we're using the D-Ball tactical flashlight. This has an IR flashlight and a normal flashlight, so I'd always recommend using this, but you can use whatever tactical device you want to use. So that is the entirety of what I think is the best 45 Vector build in patch 12.9. And this is easily one of my favorite weapons, even with some of the cons compared to the 9mm Vector. I still think this is as good as the 9mm Vector when you take into consideration how expensive the 9mm 7N bullets are right now. Like I said, there will be a link in the description to the Tarkov Gunsmith website to easily see all the parts you need for this build and see updated prices for those parts on the flea market. So subscribe if you want to see more Escape from Tarkov videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this 45 Vector build, and thanks for watching.
Все молодцы, пидоры! Пожрать бы конец. Разумел. Вон он, упырь! Вон он, блядь! Ебашь его! Вон он, блядь, ебашь его! Вон он, бля, ебашь его! Ты куда пошел? Понятно. Понятно, понятно. Вон он! О, вижу! Ты куда пошел? Понял. Контакт!